And for more on this, I'm now joined by a security and terrorism expert. Ricardo Baretzky is the head of the European Centre for Information Policy and Security. Hello, thank you very much indeed for being with us on Focus today. Now, just how much tougher would French anti-terror legislation become if these changes are adopted?
Well, I think that it's going to make a big game changer in all of Europe of how terrorism or the perception towards terrorism and the radicalism of combating terrorism is done. I think we have to see the importance of how or what type of information will be gathered and how they're going to implement this act. The necessity of such an act is very important. And for us at ECIPS, we are watching this very closely. But the question remains of how will this act be implemented and which departments will actually participate in this act.
You say this type of change to the law is necessary, but could it perhaps be a little bit too soon? I mean, is it a good idea to rush through legislation like this soon after terror attacks?
Absolutely not. I think the present information that ECIPS is evaluating on the Act is fatally flawed. There needs a lot of review on it, and there's too little experts from the intelligence community involved with this Act. The Act itself needs to be properly done and needs a complete review, in my opinion.
What would you change?
Well, there's many fatal flaws in this act. One of them is the surveillance on public civilians. The act is not clear of how this would be done. It is all good to say, well, we are going to monitor the phone conversations, we're going to monitor internet activity. However, first of all, the implementation and budgets is already a problem because in Europe, we're a little bit behind in the technological development of these capabilities. So to blindly go and monitor information via the internet of local citizens is not necessarily going to solve the problems. It's much more complicated than what is perceived and how it is perceived and produced. So there's a lot of things that has to be reviewed in proper context.
One rights group that's said it's concerned about this legislation has said that it institutes a permanent state of emergency on the internet. Do you agree with that?
To a certain degree. We all know that this change is necessary. We have to reform information service and intelligence service across Europe. But we have to know which direction to take and which questions to ask and answer. The main concern for the privacy rights and activists, I would assume, is the obtaining or monitoring of personal information. The problem that we have is that the research, in order to do, for example, one of the problems is the algorithms, implementing of algorithms in this new type of black box. This has already been done by the NSA years ago. And if it is monitored incorrectly, it could create a lot of problems within the intelligence community.
But there is going to be, as our report showed, what they called it, a control commission. Is that not reassuring? Because you said that, of course, it remains to be seen how it'll be implemented. But if there's a commission overseeing how it's implemented, is that not a positive thing?
Well, let me explain. Let's, for example, say in the algorithms is built in keywords. And those keywords is words that ordinary people use as well during the serving of internet. Their data will be captured. Now, it might not go into the main system, but the question is how they haven't defined how they're going to serve the information. Are they going to investigate every single citizen? Now, that's technically not possible. In order to get the information, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. And this is a very complex model that they proposed. You know, first of all, we have to understand that the US has invested $52 billion in a similar project. We have to catch up with any other country at this moment. Europe has invested close to $1 trillion. And that means already a big budget for cyber research and cybersecurity in Europe. It is necessary, but rushing with the bill and implementing in this way is a very, very dangerous thing.
Do you think that terrorism is too often invoked as a justification for a clampdown on civil liberties?
I think one must be cautious to confirm that this is the case, but I think that everybody realized the need for a change at this point in time. And it just happened that terrorism had to be the key factor to make a change. I think to say that terrorism is used is a little bit controversial. We have to understand why this is coming. It's a little bit late. We should have done this 15, 20 years ago when the internet came out. But certainly there was, in fact, probably in this particular play.
So if you were advising the French government now, what would you tell the government, what would you suggest them that they do?
Well, the first thing they have to do is make sure that they can exercise and execute the new legislation. They have to have a proper review and understanding of how not only the French intelligence, but the intelligence across the 28 states in Europe works. One of the big problems we have in Europe is the coordination of information. Gathering more information that's not useful is not going to help the French government. They have to focus on getting the experts together that knows this industry and draft the bill properly. The bill is not properly drafted, in our opinion, and needs a complete reform.
Okay, Ricardo Baretzky, thank you very much indeed for your time. Thanks for shedding some light on France's new anti-terror legislation debated in Parliament this week and voted on in early May. That's it for Focus, and that's it from me.